may be more, but the weightage will be for 10%. Okay. The first exam will be either in the 6th or 7th week, to be like precise, means before Ramadan. Okay, the first exam, and the second term exam it will be after Ramadan. Okay, and total we have like 5 units. Okay, so the first exam we will have unit 1 and unit 2. In the second exam you will have unit 4 and 5. And for the third unit, we will have a quiz. Okay? Quiz, most of the time I take it online through LMS. Okay, so the quiz will be online, but the 2 exams it will be physical. You have to come to the class. Okay, good. And then you have the lab assignment for 30 marks. Okay, so total this is 30 and 30 total is 60, and 40 marks will be for the final exam. And in the last class also I told you the questions will be objective. You have MCQs, multiple choice question, true and false questions, some match the following. Okay, and you can have a paragraph written, and based on that paragraph you will have answers. The answers will be there in the paragraph itself. Good. These are the 5 chapters which we will be covering. Okay. First one will be the fundamentals of remote sensing. Okay, first unit, the one which I sent you today. In the second unit, we will talk about sensors and their characteristics. In the third unit, we will talk about some of the important remote sensing missions. Okay. In the fourth one, we will be talking about the data processing. Okay, how the remote sensing data is processed, how it is analyzed, and in the last unit we will be talking about the application of remote sensing. So these are the 5 units which we will cover during the course of the semester. The other important thing which I want to tell you, that all of us have received an instruction that the attendance, it has to be online. Okay, so the system, it will be entered in the EduGate. So try to be present, because if your attendance is below 75%, then it will become a bit complicated. You will have to go to the Amada and talk there, and then means it will not be like before. Before it was like we are taking on the paper, and if you are absent or if you have some sick leave or something, we consider that, and it's not recorded in the system. Now it will be recorded in the system, so if it is below 75, then it becomes difficult. The process will be a bit complicated, so try to be present in the class. So this is clear about the course content, the grading, and the units which we will cover.
Okay.
Yes. Okay. And if you have any questions, office hour is there. Okay, from Sunday to Thursday, from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. I am there in my office upstairs. You can come. You can send me an email if you want, if you have any queries, any questions. Okay. Okay, so we will start with the first one, which is the fundamental of remote sensing. What is remote sensing? How it is done? So in the last class also I asked some of you, what do you mean by remote sensing? I asked the question, what is a remote control? And what was the answer? What is a remote control?
Tools. Tools.
Sensor.
In simple answer is a device to control anything from a distance.
Yeah.
Remote means distance. Okay. So remote control, it can be for this projector, it can be for the AC, it can be for your car, it can be for the television. Almost everything now has a remote control. So that means you don't have to come into physical contact with that object. You can control that thing from a distance. So that is remote control. Now here we are talking about remote sensing. So what is remote sensing? You are acquiring information or getting information about an object without coming into physical contact with that particular object. Okay? As the name suggests, remote sensing involves acquiring information. What is the meaning of acquiring? It's getting, taking information or getting information from a distance. From a distance, you are not in contact. Without being in direct contact with the object being studied, the object you are investigating or you are studying, you are not in direct physical contact with that object, you are looking at that object from a distance. So that is remote sensing. Now I have given an example, means when you are reading this text, you are performing an act of remote sensing. Now here you have a source of light which is in the screen, on the screen, and that light, it is reaching your eyes. Following that light, whatever is written on the screen, it is coming to your eye. Okay? And then through your eyes you are reading what is there, and the eye, it sends the message to the brain, and then the brain processes what actually it is written there. So we have a sensor. Sensor is what? Our eyes. We are using our eyes to read the thing which is there on the board. So we are not in physical contact. You are sitting at a distance. You are sitting far away, but still you can see what is there. So with the help of your eyes, which is our sensor, we are getting the information. So the light coming out from the source is the physical entity, which may be the screen of your PC or mobile phone, or if you are using your tablet. So if you switch off, if I switch off the PC, will you be able to read what is there? No, you will not be. Or if I switch off this projector, so you switch it off, the information I can read here, but you will not be able to read because the source is off. So that means the source of light is important, then only you can get the information. It is captured at a certain distance by a sensor. Okay, sensor is important, which are your eyes, which then sends to the information to a processor. The processor is our brain, which processes all the information. Now again, two things are very important for doing this. What are those two things?
Source of light.
Source of light
Processor.
and the sensor. Means if you do not have, if you close your eyes, you will not see anything. Or if I close this projector, you will not be able to see anything. That means the source of light and the sensor are the two most important things to do remote sensing. Now here, just for explanation, I have given you the sense organs which we have in our body. In human body, we have 5 sense organs. What are those? The sense of sight or seeing, sense of hearing, sense of smell, sense of taste, and sense of touch. These are the 5 sense organs which we have in our body. And in the last class you said that 3 of them are remote and 2 of them are physical. So what are the ones which are remote? Yes.
Remote sight and hearing and smell.
Hearing, smell and sight. These 3 are remote. Means you can see from a distance, you can smell from a distance, and you can hear from a distance. So these 3 are remote. The other 2, touch and taste, is physical. Until and unless you touch the thing, you will not know whether it is hot or cold. Until and unless you taste the thing, you cannot say whether it is sweet or salt or it is taste good or taste bad. You cannot. So 2 are physical, but the other 3 they are remote sense organs. So this is just for an understanding to give you a better idea about remote sensing. Now in this course we are talking specifically about remote sensing of the earth. Okay. So remote sensing, or in short form we also call it as RS, is also called as earth observation. It refers to obtaining information about objects or areas at the Earth's surface without being in direct contact with the object or area. So it can be a part of the Earth's surface, it can be some specific object on the Earth's surface, or any specific thing on the Earth's surface about which you want to get the information without coming into physical contact. So that is called as remote sensing. The thing which you have to remember is that you are acquiring information, you are getting information about an object from a distance. Distance is important. You can say acquiring information about an object is called as remote sensing. No, this is incomplete. Acquiring information about an object from a distance. That is the most important part. That is why it is called as remote sensing. You can acquire information, you go to the field, you collect a rock sample and you can get all the information about that rock sample by looking at, by feeding the rock sample, by breaking it, by studying the mineral, but that is not remote. You are doing it physical, means you are touching the object. So, and then you are getting the information. But here, you are getting the information from a distance. So, that is remote sensing. That is the complete definition. Means acquiring information about an object on the Earth's surface or a part of the Earth's surface from a distance.
Without contact.
Without coming into physical contact, yes. So this is done by sensing and recording reflected or emitted energy and processing, analyzing and applying that information. And now it talks about sensing and recording reflected or emitted energy. What is this energy? Energy is this form of light, or we call it electromagnetic radiation. This is the form of energy which is either reflected. Reflected means the energy, say from the sun, it falls on the surface and then it is reflected back. So that is what? That is called as reflected energy. The other thing can be emitted energy. Emitted energy is what? Say not now, but in the summer season, say in the evening when, or at the night time. Sometimes you are walking on the road, but because of the heat, you can feel that there is some heat which is coming out from the road. Even at night, you can feel that heat. So what is that heat? Where is it coming from? It is radiating or emitting. It is coming out from the Earth's surface. The sun is not there, but because of the sun, the heat was absorbed by the Earth's surface, and at night time when the sun is not there, that heat is radiating. It is coming out from the Earth's surface. So that is called as emitted energy, or energy which is radiated from the body. Or even ourselves, means if you get sick sometime, if you have fever, if you have high temperature, then if you come close to a person who has high temperature, you can feel that there is some heat is there, the temperature is high. So that heat is what? It is emanating, it is coming out from, radiating from the body. So electromagnetic radiations, either they can be reflected from the surface, in some cases they can be emitted from the surface also. So that electromagnetic radiation, then okay, electromagnetic radiation is being reflected from the Earth's surface, but there should be something in the sky or in the space to record that reflected energy. So you need to have a sensor. There should be a sensor which is able to record that energy, and then once that energy is recorded by the sensor, it is then transferred to the processing stations where that information is processed, and then you get meaningful information from the part of the Earth's surface which you have recorded. Okay? So obtaining information from a distance requires the existence of flow of information between the object being observed and the sensor. Means you have a sensor which may be on the Earth's surface, which may be in the atmosphere, which may be in the space, and you have the object which is on the Earth's surface. So there should be something which carries the information from the Earth's surface to the sensor. So what is that thing which carries the information from the Earth's surface to the sensor? How will be the information carried? Electromagnetic radiation. Those radiations, or in simple terms, if you are talking about light, visible light, that is the thing which carries the information from the earth surface to the sensor. And the sensor, we will see in Unit 2, sensor can be present on the ground, sensor can be present in the atmosphere, sensor can be present in the space. You have seen these speed cameras, Sahar cameras, or on the what you call traffic signals, you have the camera.
Yeah.
So what is that camera is what? It is a sensor. And where is that camera present? It is present in the space or in the air or on the ground?
There.
In the air, but is it attached to something?
No.
Ground. You have a pole or something and or a box where the camera is kept. So it is kept on the ground. So this kind of sensor which is present on the ground, that is called as a ground-based sensor. Okay. Now you can have a sensor which is in the atmosphere. For example, you have aeroplane which is moving in the atmosphere. In the aeroplane, you can attach a camera, and that camera will take pictures or images of the Earth's surface. So that sensor, it is present in the atmosphere. So that sensor is called as a air-based or atmosphere-based sensor. What about the satellites? Where are they?
Space.
They are in the space, above the Earth's atmosphere. They are in the space. On the satellites, you have these sensors which are attached, and they are getting information about the Earth's surface. So those sensors, they are space-based sensors. So depending on the position, it can be a ground-based sensor, it can be a air-based, or it can be a space-based. What about drone cameras? Which kind of sensor are they? Air-based or space or ground?
Air-based.
Air or yes? Drone camera. So is it air-based? Air and atmosphere is the same thing. Okay, you can say either atmosphere, you can say air. So which kind of sensor is drone? Air-based or space-based or ground-based?
Drone.
Air-based. So the drone is flying in the air, and on that drone you have the camera which is attached, and that camera can take images or make videos of the Earth's surface. So that is a drone camera is an air-based sensor. What about your mobile camera? If you are
Ground.
taking image of an object, so you are present on the ground, so mobile is
Ground, sir.
connected to you, so it is like a ground-based sensor. Okay. So the flow of information which takes place between the object being observed and the sensor, it takes place through the electromagnetic radiation. The light which we are saying often using the word light, that you need light and sensor to do remote sensing. Now that light is a small part of that electromagnetic radiation. Light is that part which we can see with our eyes. As I told you in the last class, there are some parts of the electromagnetic radiation, for example, X-rays or infrared rays or microwaves. These are all parts of the electromagnetic radiation, but we cannot see them with our eyes. So, instead of using light, we should use the word electromagnetic radiation, because the sensors which are there, they can see beyond the visible region. The sensors can record infrared radiation also, they can record microwave radiations also. So, it is outside the visible region, outside the region which we can see with our eyes. Okay? So instead of using the word light, we should use the word electromagnetic radiation. So the two things which are required for remote sensing is the presence of electromagnetic radiation and the sensor. Okay? Based method and the remote sensing method. In the ground-based method, what is there? You go to the field, okay? If you are talking in terms of geology, you select your study area, you go there, collect the information, all the information. Suppose you are collecting information about the type of rock, so you will collect all that information related to the rock. You will come back, you will enter all the information either in a special database, you will put it in GIS, and you will have the record of whatever you have seen or observed in the field. Now, in case of in remote sensing, there are 2-3 steps which are involved in between. Means the real world, you are not going and observing it physically, but you are using it through a sensor. The sensor is recording the information, and then the sensor transfers the data to the ground receiving station, and then from the ground receiving station you obtain the data, you process the data, and then whatever information you are taking is then recorded in the spatial database. Now the advantage of, okay, it looks like you have many steps involved, but actually this is just for your explanation, this is how the process works, but actually you can just download the data from the website and then you can start the processing. And the biggest advantage of remote sensing is that you get a bigger coverage. Means if you are doing ground-based remote sensing, you will go and visit only one place or two places in a day. You cannot cover a big area. But with remote sensing, you have an image and that image is covering
all the area.
large area, hundreds of kilometers. So you can get a greater information in a short period of time and without even visiting the place. You can just sit on your computer, you have the software, download the data, you process the data and you get all the information. Now this is a simple explanation how remote sensing works. Okay, you have the source of electromagnetic radiation, which is the sun. Okay, the sunlight falls on the Earth's surface. Okay, and then what is happening from the Earth's surface? It is reflected back into the atmosphere, and in the atmosphere or in the air or in the space, you have a sensor which is recording this reflected information, and then this information which is recorded by the sensor, it is sent to the ground station, ground receiving station, and then it is processed, and then you can use that data for various applications. Now, when this source of electromagnetic radiation, when it is passing, from the sun, it is coming to the ground, but in between what is happening? It is passing through the atmosphere. Now, when it is passing through the atmosphere, a lot of things can happen during that period. When the when the electromagnetic radiations, they pass through the Earth's atmosphere and reach the Earth's surface. In between, the interaction of the electromagnetic radiation, it takes place with the Earth's atmosphere, and there are certain things which takes place during this travel from the sun to the ground receiving to the ground. So some of the light can be absorbed, some can be scattered, some can be transmitted. So all those things are happening, and then that light or electromagnetic radiation reaches the Earth's surface, then it is reflected back to the atmosphere, which is where it is recorded by the sensor, and then the information is sent to the ground receiving station. So how remote sensing works? As I told you in the last class also, there are two kinds of remote sensing, depending on whether the sensor has its own source of light or not, or radiation or not. So it is active remote sensing or passive remote sensing. So in remote sensing, the energy source is mostly the sun. We are talking about passive remote sensing, where the sensor does not have its own source of energy. So what is the biggest source of energy?
Sun.
The sun. Means if you are in a satellite, on a satellite which is say 500 kilometers above the surface of the Earth, you cannot use a torch to see the Earth's surface. No, it will be far, far away. So where is the source of light or the radiation? That is from the sun. The sun is there, the satellite can see everything which is there on the Earth's surface. So in passive, and when the sun is not there, the sensor cannot see anything, because in that case, in this case, the sensor does not have its own source of electromagnetic radiation. So this kind of remote sensing is called as passive remote sensing. In some cases, the sensor itself has its own source of energy. It does not depend on the sun. Whether the sun is there or not there, whether it is day or night, it doesn't matter, because the sensor itself, it has its own source of electromagnetic radiation. So the sensor, it sends the information, the electromagnetic radiation to the ground surface, and then it is reflected back and it is recorded. So that kind of remote sensing, where the sensor has its own source of electromagnetic radiation, that is called as active remote sensing. Now the electromagnetic waves arriving on the surface of the Earth interacts with the particles of the atmosphere. As I told you, means the source, say it is the source of radiation is the sun, the radiation reaches the surface of the Earth. But before it reaches the surface of the Earth, it has to pass through the atmosphere. And when it is passing through the atmosphere, there are certain changes which take place in the radiation. So, part of the radiation reaches the Earth's surface where it is absorbed, transmitted, or reflected. Means in the atmosphere itself, some of the electromagnetic radiations will be absorbed. That means they cannot reach the ground surface. Some will be scattered. Means they are coming down and then they strike the particles in the atmosphere like carbon dioxide, like water vapor, sulfur dioxide. Many different particles are there, and then they may be scattered. Means they will be sent in different direction. They will not reach the surface of the Earth. And part of the radiation, they will pass, they will be transmitted, they will pass through the atmosphere, and then they reach the surface of the Earth. So it is transmitted, so that transmitted radiation, then again it will be reflected back into the Earth's atmosphere where it is recorded by the sensor. The radiation reflected from the surface are received by sensors installed on different aerial devices. It can be an aeroplane, it can be a satellite on which the sensors are present, and that sensor, it records the reflected energy, and that provides you the information about the surface of the Earth. Okay. Now this is the diagram which shows the components of remote sensing. So what is A? The source of energy or the source of the electromagnetic radiation. Here we are talking about passive remote sensing, where the sensor, it depends on the sun for the source of energy, or energy is what? Electromagnetic radiation. So first is the energy source. Then as this electromagnetic radiation from the Earth's surface, from the sun reaches the Earth's surface, in between it passes through the atmosphere. So B refers to the interaction of the electromagnetic radiation with the Earth's atmosphere. Then once the electromagnetic radiation reaches the Earth's surface, then it interacts with the Earth's surface. So this is referred to as C. Then again the radiation will be reflected back into the atmosphere. So again this B is, that's why it is written 2 times, because the interaction of the radiation will take place 2 times in the Earth's atmosphere. Once when it is passing through the sun, and the second time when it is reflected from the Earth's surface. So 2 times B is written. Then this reflected radiation, they are recorded by the sensor. Okay. Then once the information is recorded, it is sent to the ground receiving station. The information is transmitted to the ground receiving station. After the transmission, the data is processed and analyzed, and then finally the application of that data is done for different purposes. So if you see our course, our syllabus is also divided accordingly. In the first unit, we will talk about a little bit about the source of energy. We will talk about the electromagnetic radiation and how the electromagnetic radiation interacts with the Earth's surface, with the atmosphere and the Earth's surface. So that will be included in Unit 1. In Unit 2, we will talk about the sensors. What are the sensors? What are satellites? What are the characteristics of sensors? What are the different types of resolution? So in Unit 2, we will be talking about sensors. In Unit 3, we will be talking about some of the important remote sensing missions which are there and working for us and providing us data about different aspects of the Earth. So we will be talking about some weather satellites, some land observation satellites in Unit 3. In Unit 4, we will talk about data transmission and the processing of that remote sensing data. And in Unit 5, we will be talking about the applications of remote sensing. So this is how our course will be distributed. Based on this, means in every unit you will see this diagram showing the different components of remote sensing. So the basic components the atmosphere. As the electromagnetic radiation passes through the Earth's atmosphere, there is some interaction. So we have the radiation and the atmosphere, which was mentioned as B. Then the electromagnetic radiation interacts with the Earth's surface. Target, by target we mean the part of the Earth's surface or any specific object which is there on the Earth's surface. For example, as a geologist, you may be interested in studying the rock types. So that rock becomes your target of study. Okay. A person who is interested in water resources, he may be interested in looking at the rivers or the lake. So that river or lake, it will be the target for him. A person who is interested in agriculture, he will be looking at the farms, agricultural farms. So that farm will be the target for him. So depending on what is your application, target will be the object which you are interested in studying on the Earth's surface. Okay? Then the fourth part is the recording of the reflected electromagnetic radiation by the sensor. Then the transmission, reception and processing of the recorded data. Then the last but one part is the interpretation and analysis, and finally is the application of the data which you have obtained. Now when we are talking about remote sensing, the final product which we will have with us, what will it be?
Okay.
Data in which form?
Image.
Image. The final data, the final thing which we are having when we are, means you do the transmission, reception and processing, and the final product, the end product which is in front of you, that will be in the form of an image. And then you use that image for getting information about different things, different parts of the Earth's surface. So this is the same thing which I just explained. What is the energy source when we are talking about passive remote sensing? The sun is the main source of electromagnetic radiation. If you talk about active remote sensing, in that case, the sensors themselves will have their own source of electromagnetic radiation. Then that radiation, when it passes through the atmosphere, certain things take place like absorption, scattering and transmission. Then when it reaches the surface of the Earth, then again the same thing, transmission, absorption and reflection of the data of the radiation takes place. Then the reflected energy is recorded by the sensor. Then the recorded data from the sensor is sent back to the ground receiving stations. Then it is processed and analyzed, and then you interpret the data, and finally you use it for different applications. Now the raw data normally which you get from the remote sensing satellites, if you look at them, it will look as a waste. You will say that we cannot use this data for anything because I cannot see anything inside. But that is the data which has to be processed. Only after processing you will be able to get any information from that particular image. So okay, I will stop over here, components of remote sensing. In the next class we will talk about the electromagnetic radiation.